Hi, a very good evening to all our residents of Pioneer Constituency, as well as many of our friends of Pioneer Constituency who are tuning in to tonight's, or should I say this evening's session of Connect at Pioneer. This is our monthly live webinar session where we touch on, important table topics as well as themes. Topics they are suggested by many of our residents who have participated or tuned into our previous sessions of our Connect at Pioneer. This is one small way where we better connect with all of you, whether it's residents or friends of Pioneer constituency, and for us to really discuss and speak on and share and take questions as well on important topics very close to many of our hearts. And if you are tuning in, whether through the Pioneer Community Facebook page or my personal community Facebook page, or doing a watch party, possibly watching this after the live webinar is over, do help us to like and share so that more of our friends and of course those living in Pioneer constituency can benefit through this next an hour or so, where we're going to touch on another important table topic and theme, which is on sustainability. And we have very fortunately with us this evening here in where we are projecting this live webinar from Frontier Community Club is Mr. Aslam Sada. Yeah, he's GM of Green SG Collab Limited, and we are so glad that he's here with us today and going to share some important pointers, because I know many of you have asked about the green movement, the green plan, and of course the big word called sustainability. How you and I can play a part in this whole entire movement to better make our place a more greener, more sustainable community. And in Pioneer constituency, we have taken an extra effort. In fact, this year we are planning to go all out in various fronts to embrace this sustainability message. And then later we'll talk about it when we take some of your questions. I know when we pushed up the advertisement, or should I say the Facebook post, and as well as the Telegram post on this, many of you have started participating by fielding questions. So thank you to all of you, whether you're residents of Pioneer or outside of Pioneer constituency. Thanks for the many questions. We are quite overwhelmed. There are quite a long list of questions. I know, in case you're not aware, those whose questions have been picked or chosen, which we will share later during the later part of the session towards the end, where we'll take some of the Q&A from the fielded questions. You send a win for yourself a nice, thing cut of sorts, so that you can, save the environment and minimize use of plastics and all the disposables. And with that, again, this evening we are going to focus our session at Connect Pioneer on this theme of sustainability and how we can be active citizens in embracing this entire green and sustainable movement. And like I said, I won't steal the thunder from Aslam, and we'll get him as the chief evangelist of this space to share what is the entire initiative that he and his team have been kept busy doing and will be doing moving ahead. And I will join you all back later where we will take all the many Q questions that have been fielded. So out to you, Aslam, and a big thank you for coming to all the way to Frontier Community Club and sharing with us some of your thoughts. So I'll hand the time to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Advisor Patrick. And first of all, a big shout out and thank you to the team that put this together. And I think this is a very meaningful platform to engage the community and reach out to a broader audience. In fact, we are so pleased, we are honored to be here today to share some of our thoughts. And the thing that I think it's important is this issue of green citizenship. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a few of our slides, right? And through the sharing of our slides, some of our thoughts, we hope, right, through this effort, we inspire and inspire you to make changes, right, to maybe habits, behaviors that could contribute to this movement. And I thought a good way to start is to just talk a little bit about citizenry, right? Green citizenry. Why is this important? I think this issue about climate has been around for some time and getting more and more amplified, right? Countries are making and taking big actions. Organizations are starting to take things seriously about the climate. As individuals, right, as citizens of this planet, what can we do? How can we contribute in our own way, right? And I see us as individuals as what I call the last mile to the solution. The last mile that is, while we can think of it as small, making small steps, in fact, if we put all this together, we can actually be very significant in how we can play a part in, bring this world being a more sustainable place for us to live. So I hope you enjoy. Today we'll be talking a little bit about how you as individuals can play a part in the sustainability movement. Perhaps a very quick introduction of who we are. We are Green SG Collab Limited. We are a charity, and our role and our purpose here and our vision really is to bring individuals greater awareness of how we can live in harmony with Mother Nature, right? And we do this because we want to spark action. We spark actions through creating environments where we can learn and co-learn together. The environmental issue, the climate crisis, is a highly complex topic, very multidisciplinary in nature, and we cannot go out presuming that we have all the answers. So co-learning is very important for us. So that's where we work with different organizations, Institute of Higher Learnings, agencies, to bring people together to share knowledge and learn together about the issues. So we ourselves run a lot of webinars, and on screen you can see some of the topics that we have covered over the last few months and a couple of years. We also hope to create platforms, so participate in platforms such as this, and we are looking forward to actually bring a lot of this to the community, and we will be posting all this in our social media, so hope you can join us. Search for us on our social media to learn more about what we do. But without further ado, let me just jump straight into how can we as individuals play a part in bringing about a more sustainable environment. Perhaps a good starting point for us is to look at why is this important. And I think this chart that you see in front of you is actually very critical. Temperatures are rising. Global temperatures have risen over the last century or so. In fact, if we take the baselines from 1961 to 1990, temperatures have risen 0.7 degrees. And if you stretch further back, about 1 degrees. In fact, the last 7 years, since 2015 until 2021, global temperatures have actually gone up to 1 degree C. And I think this is an alarming call to action that we must take seriously. And why is this important, and how is this going to impact Singapore? Right? We are part of this country. How can this be significant to us? And I think the first and most critical one is temperature. Right? It's going to get hotter. Right? Some estimates predict that temperatures are going to be increasing from anywhere from 1.4 degrees to 4.6 degrees. So we are going to feel the heat. And I'm sure many of you out there can appreciate this, because you have perhaps even commented that, hey, why is today so hot? Right? These are actually effects of global temperatures rising. Right? Sea levels will rise. I think if you read news, you read the media, you hear of glaciers breaking apart, melting, and all this will lead to rises in the sea oceans. Singapore being an island, right, will be affected. And some are predicting that the East Coast area, right through to some parts of the West, right, may be affected with this rise. Okay. Flash floods. I think we don't have to say so much about this. You read the news. Australia is facing a very significant flooding phenomenon right now. And just not long ago, in Singapore ourselves, we had a deluge that led to flooding. So flash floods are going to be more prominent, more frequent, right? And how are we going to deal with it if we don't start, taking some real actions to tackle this? The next one is food. Food security is also going to affect us, right? We basically import most of our food. So if global temperatures rise, biodiversity is affected, food production will be affected. So we will invariably also be affected in one way or another. So I think if we look at all this, right, these are very big problems, big challenges out there. And you might be wondering, how can I as an individual make a difference? So I want to borrow this quote that I believe makes a lot of sense, and I think really resonates with me, and it's the kind of message that I want to bring out there and get you to think about, right? Yes, I mean, be a small part of the solution, but if many of us come together to be small parts of the solution, we can create ripples in the ocean. And it is the many ripples in the oceans that we want to encourage to make a difference globally, okay? So that really is the starting point for us. And how can we then make a difference? So I'm going to share what we think are 10 ideas that you can immediately take away. And the first one I want to talk about is actually food waste. And it is no surprise, food waste is one of the most significant problems we face in Singapore. In fact, I'm sure you have read, and if you have not, our landfill, right, only has the capacity to last us for probably about 13 years left. And that means we have to decide nationally whether we want to create one more landfill, or how are we going to, find ways to reduce and stretch out the duration where we hit capacity. Okay, Singaporeans on average throw away 5 kg of food. I believe in 2021 we wasted about 750,000 tons of food. That's equivalent to like 75 million 10 kg rice bags. Just imagine the amount of food waste, right, we throw away, in the food consumption. So what can we do as individuals? So I think the first and most important one is plan your purchases, right? Don't overconsume, plan your purchases, order what you can when you go out and eat, and ask for smaller portions where possible, okay? The next one I want to talk about is bring your own bag, right? Reusable bags that you can use constantly and frequently, I think is one way to contribute to easing the climate crisis. On average, right, a Singaporean uses about 140 bags per person, okay? And if we can find a way to reduce the single-use plastics, we actually contribute to reducing carbon emissions, which invariably also contribute to lowering temperatures. So what can you do as individuals? I think you can rethink the need to use a disposable bag, right? Whenever you go grocery shopping, bring a reusable bag. This one I think will resonate with a lot of you who pay utility bills. Of course, electricity prices are likely to rise with the rise of fossil fuel prices, oil prices, etc. And if we just be very conscious of how we use electricity, I think that can make a big difference. So for example, switching off when you're not using your appliances, I think comes to mind. Personally, for me, it's about switching off the lights when you're not using, you're not in the room. Sometimes people leave the room, they leave the aircon on, they leave the lights on. If we can just do a simple act to switch it off, I think we go a long way, right? Cumulatively to make a difference. So just for example, if you switch to fan after using aircon for an hour, right, you potentially could save about $340. If you stop using the electricity or switch off your desktop, laptop, over a year, you might save about $240. They may seem small, right? But cumulatively, they do add up. Power generation in Singapore contributes to 39% of all our emissions. Okay, so switching off appliances, choosing efficient, right, appliances, energy efficient appliances is also ways in which you can make a difference. The fourth item I want to talk about is supporting local produce. Because we import a lot of food, right, a lot of the emissions are actually embedded in the transportation of these items to Singapore. So if there is a way in which we can support our local entrepreneurs who are producing food here, support our local farmers, right? We invariably play a part, right, in contributing to lowering emissions. So for me, I think supporting local food production is a powerful personal commitment we can make. Buy local, see the local SG Fresh Produce logo. Opt for those where you can, or if you need to buy from closer neighboring countries rather than far away. Okay. The next one is about meat consumption. So meat cows actually produce a lot of methane, and methane is a highly damaging greenhouse gas that emits to the atmosphere. And in fact, about 20% of the greenhouse gas emissions come from methane. So if there is a way in which you can reduce your meat consumption, I think it goes a long way, right? So what you see on screen here is a suggestion. It's a suggestion where if you can just reduce marginally your meat consumption, you potentially, on a per capita basis, can lead to a decrease of about 14% in greenhouse gas emissions. So how can you do that, right? Of course, if I ask you to immediately go vegetarian, perhaps not everyone can accept that, but perhaps on one meal a week, right, could be a way in which you play a small part in reducing your consumption. And many of us do that, right? The effect could be significant. When you go out with friends and families, find ways in which you can all perhaps reduce meat intakes, go vegetarian night out, perhaps, as an idea. Okay. The sixth idea that we want to share here is about choosing second-hand, right? Or using reuse group, hand-me-downs from friends or family members. Why is this important? Because firstly, by reducing your consumption or buying new items, you reduce production. And when you reduce productions, you're actually reducing the emissions or the creators of emissions, greenhouse gas emissions out in the environment. Okay. Going secondhand actually is also good for the wallet. It is cheaper. Sometimes it can be free if it's hand-me-downs. I know in my community, in my neighborhood, there is actually a lot of there's a group chat where people will post and say, hey, I've got a table, a chair, I'm willing to give it away. Who would want? And you never know, there might be a neighbor that wants it. So there are many means in which you can participate in this. And I think if we can create more of such opportunities for people, right, we actually strengthen not just the community, but also we strengthen this whole movement towards reducing consumption. So what are some ways you can do that? Take the option of buying secondhand. I think there are some sites like Carousel, Olio you can use. There are also very exciting startups out there like Scratchback that is really about bringing people to come together to do favors for each other. And one way to do favors could be, we exchange goods rather than we buy. So there are many interesting ways in which you can adopt to reduce consumption of new items. This is very close to my heart, about volunteerism, about giving back. And I think one of the easiest, fastest way you can make a difference at actually no cost to you other than your time is taking part and supporting, right, the many good work that a lot of NGOs out there or even government agencies out there that are doing, right? Volunteering with NParks, volunteering with public agencies in programs and campaigns that they run. I think is one way you can make a difference, right? You can help in beach cleanup, you can help in NGOs that focus on plastics, right? Support them and get the message out. Okay, so I definitely encourage you to think hard about this. Energy consumption, of course. I think we all know that as a country, Singapore is really taking very, very, I would say, committed actions, right, in tapping on renewable energy as much as we can, right, given the constraints that we face, right, as a country. But if you can, and if you can afford it, right, many of the energy producers out there do offer programs where and opportunities for you to procure or buy energy from renewable sources. So you might want to consider some of these options as you are thinking about what you can do to make a difference. Make your voice heard. I think this is very important, and if you are very passionate about green sustainability, the climate crisis, right? Make your voice heard. Be involved. Platforms like this, joining in, attending, listening to what's being shared, the dialogues, listening to what people post on the chat functions, I think is a good way. In fact, a big applause to the Frontier, CC, and the team here in Pioneer for putting this together, because it shows that there is a interest, right, at the community, at the leadership level in the community, to look at this topic very seriously. So make your voice heard. Later on, we're going to have Advisor Patrick come back, pose him questions, right? Ask, get involved. And I want to also do a big shout out to each one of you to step up, take action. And in fact, today, we are very fortunate that we have a lot of platforms available for us, not just platforms from charitable organizations like us, but I think People's Association is also a very good platform where you can get involved, right, to start green projects. And in fact, if you see on screen here, Singapore has announced the SG Eco Fund. The SG Eco Fund is actually a fantastic way for you to get government funding, get support to initiate green projects that may not necessarily be big in scale, but small enough for your community, for you and a few of your friends to make an impact. Okay. So the list that you see in front of you are 10 ideas. They are not exhaustive. There are many more ideas, I'm sure, out there that people can suggest to make a difference. But I want to encourage you to think about these 10 ideas deeply and ask yourself, what can you do to make a difference, right? Making a difference to the sustainability movement, to contribute to it. It's not just about, the big needle movers. It's you and me as individuals, right? Being the last mile to that whole value chain of contributing to a better climate and a better planet, I think is just as critical and important. So I want to end with this slide, encouraging each one of you to be the change so that we can all live in a better world for our future generations to take over. So I end here, and I will be looking forward to having a chat with you and with Advisor Patrick on questions that you may have. Thank you.
Hi, thanks Aslan for taking us through on some of the things that all of us in the community and in Singapore can partner together and do together. As one big family to, in this drive towards ensuring we be sustainable, not just green, not just net zero, but I think climate change is taking us by storm, no pun intended. But really, it's really important, and I hope we can do more together. And in fact, when we told our Pioneer community, as well as our residents that we're having this session, that we received more than 35 questions from every one of you. So I will try my best. Like I said, we'll try to cover at least 20 of the questions. Since we have a bit more time, we have slightly more than half an hour. So let's take the questions. More importantly, for those who have just joined us and of course just tuned in, please do help us like and share. This is our monthly Connect at Pioneer series, and today our table topic is on sustainability and how each and one of us can be active citizens in this whole sustainability drive. And I thought even before I start getting Aslan and myself to discuss and share some of our thoughts on some of the questions that have been posed by all of you, our Pioneer residents. I know there was one question, so I thought I'd better quickly go into this one first. It's quite a pertinent question because I've been sharing at other sessions and other platforms about our drive towards using solar. So there was one resident, his name is Seng. So I think we got your details. So Seng, we will try to contact you via email or some other platforms then to invite you to kind of collect your nice thing card from us here at Frontier Community Club. So Sung asked a question on when will our blocks in our area have solar panels. So my good news to you is, I've shared this before. I think I'm going to share it again this evening. I'm glad to share that almost all our blocks here in Pioneer constituency already have solar panels. There are about 107 blocks. There are a couple of blocks, of course. We have a private condo here in the Pioneer constituency, but there are 7 blocks because of the height and the nature of the restrictions and the safety, and of course the plan, the view or the space provided at the rooftop is not suitable and not safe to do so. But otherwise, all the blocks in Pioneer, I'm proud to say, already have solar panels on their rooftops. So I was just sharing with Aslam earlier before this session, and he was pleasantly surprised and happy as well. And as you know, there's a big drive through this Solar Nova project and the various projects which Housing and Development Board is doing across Singapore. So not to worry. I think in phases, well, at least in Pioneer constituency, we have started the ball rolling. I think in every constituency, every HDB flat, I think we have heard about it as a policy announcement and also the various programs, but in phases to roll out having solar panels on rooftops. Fortunately, those that are able, generally most of our blocks are able. However, the blocks may not be that tall or high and really can't reach, don't have direct sunlight. Some of you who are familiar with solar panels will realize that solar panels require direct sunlight for quite extended period of time, as many hours as possible. And some blocks are, because of the nature of the construct, the geography, as well as very adjacent to some blocks which tower over them, don't get direct sunlight in long hours. So therefore, there's this restriction on having the solar panels there, and then you don't really receive the energy and they harness that renewable energy. So that's a bit about solar. So Sung, we'll put you on the list, and we'll contact you very soon on how to collect your tingkat. And also there's one question on waste management. I think Asan touched about it. Ranjiv asked about this area of waste management and how it kind of like dovetail together with the sustainability movement. Any thoughts on that, Asan?
Yeah, I think waste is really a big topic for Singapore, and I believe I mentioned earlier, in Singapore we have one landfill, and the landfill capacity is rising, and in fact we have probably, some estimates 13 years. It could be less depending on how we consume, right? So waste is a very significant issue in my opinion. At a personal level, for me, waste, how do we tackle waste, right? Because waste comes in many forms. Our topic here today is about green citizenry, so which really is about the individual tackling waste, right? Of course, there are policies I'm sure you are aware of that the government has put in place for waste management in construction industry, for example, right? So
or even
disposables, right? Many of it is recyclable. In fact, even paper, right? I was told is recycled and very significantly recycled. But we as individuals, we consume food and we waste a lot of food. So for me, if there is a way in which we can help people to rethink the way we consume food, order food. Sometimes we buy so much food at home, we don't realize the use-by date or the best use date is over, and then we dispose of those. So is there a way we can change our habits? So for me, I think at the individual level, right, it's very important to take a step back, to really think about how you're consuming. Actually, a question to everyone out there for you to think about. Do you actually look at the rubbish bin in your kitchen when you are throwing the food away before it goes to the rubbish chute? It might be very interesting for you to think about that, right? And if you are recycling, for example, if you recycle plastics at home and then you bring it to the recycling bin, do you pay attention to what goes in there? And if all of us just take a step back, look at the bin, and just reflect, wow, those are the items I bought, right? Do I need them? What am I consuming? I think if we start to raise the consciousness at the individual level, right? that to me is that small step you can take to transform the way you waste food or waste or throw away waste. So that's my view.
Yes, and then waste, like what Aslan mentioned, it comes in various forms. We talk about food waste. I think Singapore is many of us are guilty of generating a lot of food waste. As Aslan shared, we sometimes buy more than we need. We don't finish what we actually were serving. So I think there are many ways that the individuals like ourselves can do our small part. When you order food, order rice, you just order what you need or you think you can finish, rather than have mountain heap full of rice and then you don't consume half. So where possible, I mean, we do our part to not to waste some of this food and of course buy what you need and buy what you need to consume. And the other one is also as Aslan mentioned about the recyclables. There's the big drive across Singapore, including in Pioneer Constituency. In fact, last year we had a big drive where we last October, together with our youth network here in Pioneer Constituency, we actually did a big drive on sustainability and encouraging recycling. And you'll be surprised, we actually in one single month, without much advertisement, maybe perhaps some Facebook outreach and Insta outreach, we actually collected 20 tons of recyclables just in 1 month. No publicity, no major publicity or anything, and just in Pioneer constituency alone, 20 tons. So you can imagine the amount of recyclables that we can. And if you look around, if you actually look around, we have actually very intently placed many of these various recycling projects or systems across the whole Pioneer constituency. We have not just the usual blue bins. Now we have the excessively huge ones. Because I know some of you have big items that can be recycled, or it could be plastics and a lot of paper sometimes generated. So sometimes after exams or after end of the year, when you want to, now you can even recycle your textbooks by donating your textbooks so that people that come after you can benefit from it. So there are various ways to do it. I think it's just that you need to take the proactive, very conscious step to do it. Particularly important in these 2 years where we have the COVID-19 and many of us are buying things online and doing a lot of online shopping. And online shopping has lots of packaging, sometimes bubble wrap, sometimes a lot of boxes. So I think it's important, incumbent on each and every one of us to do our small part, to recycle all this. I think it's possible, and there are bins all around. And now you have recycling e-waste. If you don't want to go too far, there's Jurong Point on the way. If you're going to the Boon Lay bus interchange, etc., you can actually recycle some of the e-waste. Here also in Frontier Community Club, we have various platforms, including one that a project together with Alba, where we do recycling of paper. The machine, and you get some points and perks, and of course the monthly collections that we do at our residence network. And each and every one, we have more than 10 residence networks here in Pioneer Constituency. So look out for those advertisements or notices in your lifts, in your void deck, and of course if you are following the Pioneer Community Facebook page or Pioneer Community Telegram, then you will know some of these happenings and where to go to want to recycle your stuff. But otherwise, the blue bins are quite prominent near multi-story car parks, the big ones, as well as the different parts of our Pioneer constituency. And I'm glad to share that one of our zones, nearer to the Jurong West Stadium site, Zone 12, also started a free cycle program. Free cycle, not just free cycle. So some of you who have bought maybe excessive items or have some items to spare which you don't really use it, could be mint condition, to be still can be used. For example, even strollers. Our children grow quite quickly. The strollers get obsolete very fast, and it's left one corner. Some of them we free cycle it. So we have this free cycle Telegram group. I'm part of it as well, and you can actually join this free cycle Telegram group. And then if you have items, take a picture, share it, and you can either deposit it at the residence network or allow whoever resident who wants or needs the item. It could be a charger, it could be an extra USB cable, stuff like that. I think there are various platforms and things you're doing here, and so do explore. Because I know there were some questions that came in, about what's happening here in Pioneer Constituency. So that's why I took the initiative to share with you. I just want to mention some names so that you can get a think-up price, like Kate Chumbing, who asked how to go green. So this is some of the things that we are doing. and there's also one that asked about how much pioneer constituents can do to contribute to this and saving the environment. So these are examples that you just shared. So thanks to Kam Shun Tong. Ian Ho asked about, how in the digital space, I talked about e-waste recycling, but also I shared you the various social media platforms on where we cascade and also share some of the things that we're doing here in Pioneer Constituency. So you can do your small part to help us like and share, including like and share tonight's session, so that we can evangelize and outreach to more of our residents to embrace this entire sustainability agenda. And of course, there was one question by Steve. He said about the current bottle recycling scheme is inadequate. We can do more. He said we support 5 cents payout, but I mean that the principle is NEA has partnered us. We have some of these bottle recycling, including at Boon Lay Bus Interchange, and of course in our facility. I think the key thing is we want to encourage people to recycle, not so much out of an incentive, but proactively wanting to be active citizens, embracing this entire green movement. So I think that's key. I mean, how to change mindsets to adopt a more green mindset, and so how can we start to be bigger green citizens? Aslan I shared earlier, he shared about 25 minutes of it. So Lee Siu Fa, we will contact you as well. And Lee Mei Lin, also our resident, asked about will garbage separation like Japan and Korea be practiced in Singapore? Yes, now we try, not everywhere, but like what Aslan mentioned earlier, we recycle, important to see what you can and cannot recycle. Because we also noticed that some people just throw everything in the bin. Yeah, and then even PET bottles, it's nice plastic recycling, but they still full of drinks inside and you throw it into the bin. That's going to exacerbate the situation. So we actually posted a nice poster on our Pioneer community page, as well as my Facebook community page on the do's and don'ts. I'll probably put that at the comments page later after today's session, so that you are tuning in, you can check what are the do's and don'ts when you recycle in our bins, and put things in our bins, whether it's paper, so don't put trash inside. Put things and clean the bottles where possible, rinse them, so that the separation, because the challenge when I speak to many of the waste disposal companies is the challenge is separating the different kind of waste later on when it goes to the plant. So I think that's one big challenge which I hope all of us can do our part. And there was one question from Wei Cheng on how about the electric vehicle markets? How is the EV going to impact Singapore? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think that's I just want to say that what you have just shared about what is being done in Pioneer is simply amazing, and free cycling stood out a lot for me, because I still remember when you mentioned strollers. As a parent of 3 children, we bought a stroller. Well, we are lucky, we have 3 kids, so you use it for quite a long time. But it was such a good condition, and when we gave it away, the other family, they really appreciated it. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of movement now about sharing, and giving away to communities, neighbors. Yes. And so I was very, very impressed and heartened that this is being done. On the topic of EV, we're still very early in this whole EV drive, and there's some research that says, in the life cycle of a car, right, your first 6 years, you might not see any significant impact to greenhouse gas emissions. But I think that really is not the way to look at it. The way to look at it is really, how do we have a cleaner environment? So just think about this. Fossil fuel combustion engine, right? They produce a lot of particles in the air. So actually you and me are breathing in that air. And whether we like it or not, those air is not clean, right? But when we go EV, full EV, the air hopefully will be much cleaner. Of course, the operating assumption here is that the electricity we produce is from clean sources or cleaner sources. So my view is that it's actually a very timely move, and I think we need to move fast. And I'm glad actually the government is being very aggressive. Originally they planned for 28,000 EV recharging points, but they've increased that number to 68,000. So I feel that is a very significant.
Yeah, that was just a big announcement
a
couple of days ago. Minister for Transport, Minister Iswaran did share about a few initiatives. Example like 110 kilowatt kind of vehicles or power are classified as type A, category A for COEs, and mind you, we're going to have charging ports. I mean, the plans have charging ports in all our multi-story car parks here in Singapore. So to let you all in a bit, you'll hear more. There will be charging ports coming to Pioneer Constituency, just to assure everyone. I think they're still doing an assessment and survey on the usage, and definitely will be coming by our neighborhood very, very soon. So you heard from the minister himself. There are a few other questions. So again, a big thank you to those who are names that I've announced earlier, like Shun Tong, Ian, Steve, Silfa, Wei Cheng, Maylin, and thanks for all your questions, and we'll be in touch with you. They're very us. I said more than 55 questions, so I'm trying very much to cover everyone's questions. There's also there's one by Kate Chumbing, How to Go Green. So you heard from Aslam earlier, and there's one from Jaya Prakash as well. You asked about how do we use alternative energy, whether we can use alternative energy sources like wind and solar. So I shared with you all about solar. I think beyond solar at our rooftops, there are other ways to make full use of it. I think you have heard various projects across Singapore, including some of our street lamps, and some of the lamps, if you notice, across our Pioneer neighborhood, you intently look around, there are actually some of them are powered by solar where possible. So these are some of the examples. But for wind, I think there's a big study on this. Unfortunately, in Singapore, we don't have great winds like many of the Scandinavian and European countries where there are strong winds. So here, unfortunately, wind is quite limited in a way, and we can't do that. But we have lots of sun, we have lots of rain and clouds as well. So we are trying to harness that source. And there's another question on what are the upcoming sustainability projects are. So thanks to Mark So. As I shared earlier, or you may use the next platform to share. Tonight's session is sort of in a way a tee up to some of our initiatives in the sustainability space. So we are planning, I'm kind of like letting the cat out of the bag. We are planning to have sort of like a small grouping to bring residents together so that we can drive this big sustainability agenda. So tonight, in a way, is a call to action to every one of you. So if you are tuning in or you are watching this as a watch party or rerun, we are in the lookout. So look out for Telegram pages, Insta, and all the various platforms. We'll be inviting you, our residents of Pioneer, to participate and join hands with us. It's going to be a ground-up thing. So we want to get each and every one of us here in Pioneer excited, come together, and the young, the not so young, and everyone who has a bit of time capacity and bandwidth to join us to be part of this movement, because we're not going to do just on solar, because we are already all with solar on the rooftops, but we're going to do more. Be it recycling, the 3 R's are reduce, reuse, recycle. But beyond that, greening the environment and any topic that will help us, here in Pioneer Constituency to embrace this sustainability agenda. So look out for it. We'll be recruiting volunteers and getting the community. So in the spirit of our team this evening, active citizenry for sustainability, I'm officially announcing that we're gonna set up a small task force of sorts. Not task force as in you get people experts in this field, but really residents joining hands with us to roll out our sleeves and get our hands dirty to make sure that we try to, for those who are passionate, maybe perhaps in recycling or free cycling, or some of you who are in greening, and of course some of you are very enthusiastic about waste minimization or net zero and the various initiatives. So we are on the lookout. Look out for our social media pages. We will be inviting each and every one of you to sign up and be part of this movement here in Pioneer Constituency. So that's a long answer to the question on how what are upcoming sustainability projects which Mark So asked about. Next, There's still quite a bit of questions. Bear with me, it's small print, so I'm trying to cover as much ground as possible. Yeah, there's one by Loy Yen Fang. How to make awareness of recycling to senior citizens. What do you think, Aslam?
Yeah, that's a great question, and a question that I think it's very very timely because when you think about recycling or you think about sustainability, we think that our seniors may not be very conscientious about it. But if you really talk to the seniors, you will find that it is inbred in them. There's a certain instinct where they don't buy clothes frequently, like in fast fashion type of clothes regularly. So in a way, they are preserving the existing food clothes that they have and reusing it, right? So I think our seniors, their conscious level or consciousness level in green and sustainability is different from us, but there is a certain instinct to preserve rather than to spend. So I think what I feel is the if we can bring the different generations together, right, it will become very very interesting to co-learn from each other. So I share with you. I know of my dad, he's 83, but he seldom buys new clothes. And he uses his existing clothes for a long time. And where possible, he will try his best to recycle as much as possible or reuse. So I think that instinct is there. But I do think that some of the more modern issues that we face, like the recycling of plastic bottles, for example, like washing, cleaning, that instinct may not be as top of mind, right, as compared to maybe the younger generation, which is very passionate about this. So my take on it is, how do we raise awareness? It's really through programs, platforms, events. I think the kind of things, Advisor Patrick, you mentioned about how you are going to create this task force, right? If we can get the intergeneration involved, right?
That's right.
Task
so that's why I mentioned earlier, not just the young, but the not so young as well.
Yeah.
So if everybody collectively, I think we have our own strengths and our own spheres of influence. So if we can leverage on each and every one of you to play a part, and then we can evangelize and get more people on board. Yeah, but no, Asa is actually correct. I think maybe the seniors, particularly, when they don't accidentally buy clothes. At the same time, also when they eat food, they tend to not want to waste food. Yeah, I know because my parents and my grandparents used to always remind me not to waste food. Sometimes when you don't finish your plate and stuff like that. And that brings me to the point on many of us wear sneakers and have a lot of shoes. We sometimes buy many pairs of shoes, and then they run out, or the rubber just falls off because after a couple of years it doesn't work. We have actually a shoe recycling project here in the West. So if you have actually shoes, I know some of our schools, we have 3 schools here in Pioneer Constituency. We have Jurong West Primary, Jurong West Secondary, as well as Frontier Primary. But more importantly, it's actually Jurong West Sports Stadium, just at the corner of Pioneer Constituency. Actually has a second floor. We actually started a recycling effort for shoes, used shoes. So I've been putting some of my used shoes there, because some of the soles are actually used to be converted, thanks to a company called Dow. Yeah, they're doing this project to recycle some of these the soles and then transform them into jogging tracks, sports tracks, and recreation tracks. So that's something which they are actively doing in some parts of the West. Yeah, and we are trying to do it also here in Pioneer Constituency. But in case you have shoes, I know some of the schools are doing it, but if you have extra pair of shoes or the shoes are worn out, but you don't put them in a recycle bin, please put them in the Jurong West Sports Stadium. It's at the second floor. There's a shoe recycling 2 bins actually, and they are constantly full. The last time I put it there was during Chinese New Year, just before Chinese New Year, because we are clearing stuff. It was quite full, all shoes, and including slippers. Some of us slippers, you can also put it there, and we can then recycle the soles as well. So there are a few other questions. Quite a lot of questions. So I know we have about 5 or so minutes more, but I'll try to cover as much ground as possible. There's a question on Okay, there's a question of what is sustainability and how we measure it. Earlier on, we talked about it. So, Manchong, we talked about it earlier. Florence also asked about impact of sustainability and environment, society, globe. Aslam also covered it in his sharing earlier. And Elaine also asked about substances that contaminate environment, harm people. So you all know the CO2 emissions we talked about earlier. And so thank you for that. Yen Fang asked about how to make awareness earlier on about senior citizens. So we have shared with you. They too can play a part. So we hope this task force can involve residents young and not so young. And Elaine asked about substances that, earlier I talked about that, carbon dioxide. Leong Lin asked about with the recent hot topic of plastic bags. Does recycling bags really save the environment? What's your thought, Aslam?
Wow, that's a very tough question actually, but a good question, and I think a very current question. I think the jury is out on whether or not it has a significant impact to carbon emissions, but clearly single-use plastic has an impact on carbon because why? To produce it, you're producing carbon, right? So I think that's the first principle. You definitely do produce carbon when you produce plastic bags, and if you use it one time and you dispose of it, right? You're in fact contributing to the carbon emissions problem. So the issue is really about reusable bags, right? Getting people and nudging them towards reusable bags. and I think if I look at the what's happening and the discourse in Singapore, I think it's very good discourse, personally. Will it really make a significant dent? I'm not sure if there's enough science for me to say yes or even no, but I do know that the message that we are creating in terms of getting people to pay for use is not so much about getting you to pay to use, but really getting you to think hard about, do you need to use the single-use bag? And can you substitute it to reusable bag? So personally, I'll share a personal story, and I think that may let you consider the issue. So we never thought of bringing a reusable bags in the past, right? But with more and more education and knowledge, and I started to read up more, today when we go shopping, we actually bring our own bags, right? And we put all those bags, all those food items in and bring it back. And we found that actually, after a few times, we thought we might not be used to it, but we became very used to it. And it started to really change the way we even buy food. Because if I use the NTUC bags that come to me free, right, I'll buy a lot. But now I have 5 or 6 reusable bags. I go into shopping, I'm actually very conscious of what I'm doing. So my consciousness level changes. And I think that really is what we want people to walk away from this session, to get you to raise your consciousness level, because it's really about you as an individual, right? Not about you relative to the next person, but you as an individual, what you can do. And I personally feel the current discourse about single-use plastic bag, we have to think of it in a different way. You know, if I can afford it, why don't I not pay for the plastic bag, bring my own reusable bag, right? And use disposable bags that are using materials that are, compostable, perhaps, right? Which is more friendly to the environment.
Correct. So actually, there are a few ways. I mean, this plastic bag debate we were talking earlier, was something like, if I don't get the plastic bags from the supermarket, then I don't have the plastic bags to clear rubbish.
Yeah.
So I think it's a whole mental model shift that we want to see everyone have. Not so much to make money off, paying for bags. I think is that culture and that mental model important. So because as we look at it in our household, what do we do when you throw in the trash? Unconsumed food, waste in that sense. So if it's bottled, then we can wash it up, recycle it. Even food waste. So composting. I know I have seen some constituencies that run programs. I'm quite keen to run one here in Pioneer constituency as well. And now compostable materials and composting is getting very, very big. And people are throwing food waste into that nice. Now it's even portable. Previously, you need a very big facility to do it. Now you can actually do it through a small bin, of course, hygienically, and of course it must be comfortable handling the worms in in that compost container. But otherwise, that's another way to minimize waste. I think the key is to minimize waste where possible. So that's the main message. And
Actually, if I could add, Patrick, perhaps one thought about this whole issue about plastic bags, right? If you pay attention to what you buy and consume, I give you an example. If you buy toilet rolls, it comes in a bag, right? And then if you think creatively, you can actually use that bag as a rubbish bin bag where you can put your rubbish in. So rather than getting an NTUC single-use bag, right? So it's really about reusing what you have. You do a lot of online shopping. It comes with a lot of packaging, right? So those packaged plastics actually can be reused as disposable bags to put in rubbish to dispose of.
Even the paper boxes. For dry items, you need to either recycle before you put it in the bin, or you can actually use those. Actually, some of them, because of the nature of the products that they are delivering, they are quite hardy and won't go out of shape and can actually take quite a bit of weight. So I think that's your example. But I like that tissue or toilet roll example. I know some of us have the tendency to rip off the entire plastic, right? So now make a conscious effort to just snip it at the top, and then so you have a nice plastic that you can reuse to store whatever trash. And of course, toilet rolls, don't forget, after you finish the center core, you can actually recycle it in the bin. Yeah. And okay, I know time is running out. We have only 4 minutes more, but I just want to read out some names so that everyone gets their tingkat as a gift for making it a very, very conscious effort to send in your questions. I have Natasha, Anwar, Mei Ling, Jovin, as well as Yan Ping. So all asking very, very important questions like what initiatives that we are doing nationally and locally. You have heard us earlier. Sustainability challenges, we have talked about it as well. Some are asking about quite 2 or 3 questions about plastic carrier bags. So we have shared about this topic and the hope that you can partner us in changing some of the mental models and mindsets on this, and how we can start becoming more green. We've given you various initiatives and upcoming, so look out. Watch this space. Yeah, we're going to share more on how you can be part of it. There's also one final question for the evening on, does work from home really help in sustaining environment? Since lesser people are traveling, but every household will use more electricity. So I think Asam earlier talked about rising electricity prices. We know, unfortunately, fuel prices have gone up, and therefore energy prices has gone up as well. Well, maybe a good way to nudge each and every one of us to save the earth and consume less energy, particularly important. Yes, definitely with less traveling and less usage, less movements of people, there's definitely a bit of savings. In fact, I know officers where, because they're not full strength yet, still 50% or previously even lesser, they have kind of like switch off lights and some parts of the offices, they have switched off their air conditioning, so that we minimize all too much consumption of energy. And yes, I know some of you are staying home more, so I said find ways and means to cut down electricity and energy usage where you can. Yeah, like example, if you have storage water heater, don't leave it on round through the day. You just switch it on just before you want to use it, maybe 5 minutes before that, and switch it off immediately after that, so that you get enough heated water for your shower. If you are using the storage heater, I know some of you do that. And of course, devices. I realize these days there are a lot of devices. We know you have the energy saving 2 ticks, 3 ticks, 4 ticks. It goes a long way. I know I met one resident not too long ago, who was sharing with me when I did a house visit on why my electricity, my place only my wife and me, this old couple, and they're saying, why am I consuming and paying so much in my electricity bill? Then we lo and behold, I visited him, went to the household with him, and that was before the COVID period. And then lo and behold, I realized some of his appliances are very old, and therefore, unfortunately, those because of the nature of the fridge, the water heater, as well as the kettle and the washing machine were very, very old, and even air conditioning as well. And because of the nature of it, it's not well maintained, and therefore actually consume more electricity than it should, and not so efficient. So I think we are serious about it. The 3 ticks and 4 ticks, I personally feel work, and therefore look out for all these in small ways you can minimize excessive use of energy. And on that note, I would like to use this opportunity as we are hitting the top of the hour at 9, and it's a Friday night. Thanks for joining us this evening, and a big thank you to Aslam for coming all the way here to Frontier Community Club and his team, and of course a big thank you to the organizing Connect a Pioneer organizing team, a group of resident volunteers, including Aslam's team just behind this camera, for joining us and making tonight's session possible. And just to end on to say that if you are watching us, if you can like and share so that others can benefit from this, and for those whose names are read out, we will find a way to be in touch with you so that we can give you this nice green tingkat card for you to use when you buy food from our nearby hawker centers and even in Jurong Point. And on that note, I know there are 2 more slides which I wanted our team to flash to you. Firstly, this is our, I said, powering for Frontier Community Club. Yeah, you can, if you are a Passion Card member, you can scan this QR code to get some Passion points. Yeah, we'll leave that on. If you miss it, don't worry. You can replay the video. We are leaving the video on the Pioneer Community page as well as my personal community page. And the last slide for this evening will be the feedback. We hope you have enjoyed the next session, pick some new information. Even as I talk to Aslam, I'm picking up new tips and information and learning as well. So I hope it has been a useful 1 hour for you. And some of you are watching this live. Thank you for staying tuned and joining us. And those who have won prizes, congratulations. And this is a QR code for you to scan and let us know what are the other topics that we're doing. You want to hear from us as table topics for us to discuss and have guest speakers like Aslam join us from different parts of Singapore and really sharing important table topics that are close to all of our hearts. And on that note, have a great evening and a great weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and more importantly, connect with us at Pioneer through our various social media channels. And thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, Aslam.
Thank you, Patrick, for having us.
Yeah. Have a great evening and the weekend ahead. Bye.
Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.